Previously on Horrible Film Recaps.
Sons of Scotland, I am William Wallace. Wait, where are you horses?
They're in the shop.
Where'd that come from?
Cybertron and all its moons belong to me!
You gotta give me a minute, man. These aren't my feet.
And now on to our feature presentation.
A giant yarmulke floats high above Niagara Falls. Those flying jerks leave the planet and tell Carl they'll be back, but he knows it's a big fat lie.
Those stupid jerks just left me here.
He mutters to himself because nobody can stand to be around him anyway. His so-called friends left him a half a rancid grapefruit for lunch, while they probably are off enjoying shrimp or some sort of salted meat and cheese combination. The big dumb diaper baby is so upset that he throws his sippy cup into the water. Little did he know his drink was riddled with space herpes, which did a total number on his fragile immune system. He got all sick and fell into the water. Hopefully he grabbed his sippy cup because littering is just not cool. That brings us to the title of the movie. It's called Prometheus. I don't have a clever pun, so just think of one and pretend I said it. Somewhere in Yellow Springs, Ohio, this troll lures some poor hikers into his cave so he can snack on their bones. Later in space, we see the spacecraft known as the USS Filthy Ore. On board is some dude with yellow eyes. God help me, he has yellow eyes. Oh, it's just a helmet. He probably wears it to avoid making eye contact with the rest of the crew. He amuses himself by playing bike sketball and watching horrible film recaps when they finally decide to release new videos. The red blinky lights warn him that something has gone terribly wrong. It seems the Filthy Ore is going straight for that giant ball. He notices someone hasn't emptied their urine tube and goes to investigate. He spots a woman doing push-ups. I'm not sure who the actor is, but when I look her up on IMDb, her character name is always executive producer. And now the rest of the crew awaken from their urine-soaked slumbers. Here we get to meet them and learn their names. There's this guy and that guy. Lisbeth Salander from the original Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the executive producer, Harry Spottenhofer from Reefer Madness 2, the younger version of old Magneto, and the rest. Crew attends a high school assembly. Here the executive producer tells them to sell magazine subscriptions or there will be no money for the big end-of-year field trip. To ensure full compliance, the previous year's top magazine subscription seller gives a rousing speech. Oh, and his dog dies. Lisbeth and her eye candy shows the crew the various magazines that they can offer to potential customers. This guy, whom we'll call Bob, shows them this cool puzzle box he found in a dumpster. The Filthy Ore gets closer to Uranus to begin insertion. Magneto invites everyone to his room to show off everything he earned from last year's magazine subscription scam. Drive. Don't touch that. The executive producer yells at Lisbeth because she can't keep her grubby mitts off anything. The makers of this movie totally ripped this scene off that terrible game Starfield. Damn you, Todd Howard. It had such potential. Anyway, the crew of space jerks spots an apartment building where they can guilt those suckers into buying their damn magazines. They suit up in scuba gear because the planet has high humidity and these people are idiots. They take that Voltron robot made of vehicles because they're not cool enough for the 5 lions. They arrive at the building and exit their school bus. It turns out the apartment building is just a big stupid rock. I told you they were idiots. Like some sort of rock-dwelling insects, they crawl under it to discover there's dirt on the floor. This guy shows his friends his brand new Beyblades. But these are no ordinary Beyblades. They's got lasers on them. Meanwhile, Harry Spottenhofer shows off his cool maze for tonight's big Dungeons and Dragons campaign. Magneto sneezes and wipes the space boogers off the wall. Then for a brief second, he considers eating them. What a moron. The stupid space people continue to search for anyone dumb enough to buy magazine subscriptions, only to find low-quality holographic VHS video of a race of space elephants running to avoid having to buy magazine subscriptions. This holographic klutz trips on a non-holographic rock. I don't know how, but something, science. Magneto pretends like he knows what these crazy cave markings mean, but he doesn't. because he's just a big, dumb, stupid-headed moron. He's pressing random buttons, trying to get an outside line so he can talk to his agent and get out of this movie. The door opens, and they enter the set of the Sidney Lumet Broadway musical, The Wiz. They stumble into the Space Elephant's secret stash of priceless Ming Dynasty vases. The vases have space crud on them, and of course Magneto has to touch it like he's a child or something. There's a storm a-coming, so the dummies decide it's best to drive out into it instead of waiting it out in there under Rockvey's depository. They make it back just in time, but Lisbeth drops her duffel bag full of magazines. "You should have used a fanny pack, you fool." The Space Elephants hate buying magazines, so they start throwing rocks at the crew. Now, I'm not condoning violence, but this does seem like a decent idea when dealing with unwanted solicitors. Sadly, the crew makes it safely inside the filthy ore. And check out the freaky space elephant head they stole from that poor headless space elephant. They crack it open to reach the rich, creamy nougat center, but all they get is a human head-shaped piece of disappointment. They jab him in the ear with a needle to harvest the sweet, sweet brain juices for dinner later. Naturally, he reacts negatively to having his brain squooshins stolen, so the space jerks explode his cranium. Magneto stares at the brain juice and wonders if he should eat it. Yep, he's still a moron. He interrupts Bob, who is busy playing with his balls. Meanwhile, Guy 1 and Guy 2 come across something that resembles a space wang. This dummy tries to touch it, but to avoid any contact, the space penis does a warning dance.
That's my purse! I don't know you!
This genius decides to ignore it and touches the wiener beast anyway. For his troubles, he gets a broken arm. God help me, he gets a broken arm. Then they try something that is usually reserved for married couples and cheap floozies. This dude's headgear melts into his face, which is the opposite of what a protective helmet should do. The next day, the crew heads out again to sell more magazine subscriptions. They come across more holographic images and ask them if they are interested in reading the latest articles in Collier's magazine. The hologram ignores them and lights up a doobie. The smoke from said doobie causes Magneto to hallucinate. In another part of town, the crew tries to get back into the filthy ore. They haven't sold any magazine subscriptions, and the executive producer has grown weary of their insolence. Harry argues that they can't sell magazines to holographic projections, but she ain't having none of that. Bob says he wants to stop being a subscription jockey and quits on the spot. The executive producer tells him you can't quit, 'cause you're fired. The girl with the dragon tattoo wakes up and finds that Magneto removed her tattoo. She tries to put it back on, but through a stroke of bad luck somehow gets a slimy squid baby thingamajig instead. Unfortunately, Lisbeth has a severe case of cephalopodophobia and leaves the squid baby to fend for itself. Bob comes back to beg for his job. Tito says no way and gets a fistful of backlash. Harry's all like, "Not cool, man," and takes disciplinary action. He crunches the numbers and learns that some of the crew aren't reaching their subscription quota. He holds a meeting to voice his disappointment. The lazy crew has one more day to make some sales, so they head out one last time to reel in some customers. The pushy space jerks stumble into a bedroom and awaken one of the sleeping occupants. Naturally, this grumpy Gus has some choice words to say to them, complete with colorful metaphors and sentence enhancers. Incapable of reading the room, Magneto goes into his sales pitch, while last year's top seller tries to weasel his way into the conversation. This angers the man further, and he does rips his head clear off his body. Ain't that some bullshit? Heads up, old man. He giggles at his own stupid pun. So is that a no? Magneto inquires. Now too awake to fall back asleep, he has to run to the store to get milk for his coffee. As he takes off to go to the mini-mart, Harry decides now is as good a time as ever to pretend he can fly his ship. Unfortunately, he learned how to drive by playing Mario Kart. The damned fool accidentally launches a turtle shell, which backfires spectacularly. Elizabeth and the executive producer partake in a race around the world when a giant space donut falls from the sky. They start running faster as to avoid the lethal doses of space gluten. Unfortunately, the executive producer's shoelaces get tangled and the dummy succumbs to gravity. And thus, the donut claims another victim. Lisbeth just shrugs and says whatevs. She enters the filthy ore through the back door. She accidentally walks in on the dude and some random starfish doing stuff that usually results in unwanted pregnancies and itchiness in the crotchal areas. She decides she's done with the magazine subscription racket and pivots to stealing heads that she finds laying in the dirt. Oh, and Harold makes an appearance.
Yeah, boy!
This concludes the recap of this truly terrible film. What the hell did I just watch? What type of movie has space wangs and squid babies? I really regret watching it, and I regret recapping it even more. Good day to you all.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoy our nonsensical ramblings, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment.